The biggest thing that stops people from creating their own brand or their own product is that they have this belief that they need to buy all this inventory. They need to come up with a business plan and do all these things before they can ever get started.
What I want to dig into is you too, and who you are, which I consider to be a high voltage business builder, and what that actually means in terms of you, your life, your business, and things you're doing, your mission to reduce the world's plastic containers, because there are so many of them floating around, as I know, which I appreciate that mission very much. And it is true to the earth, as I understand your business and purpose. But let's also get to know you a little bit, because your story, I'm sure, was not built on a silver spoon like most entrepreneurs. And I bet this wasn't the first thing you tried to do in business, was it?
Nope. I'm 41, I'm 42 soon here, but I've been involved in some kind of business since I was like a teenager or probably a kid, like lemonade stands and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been a while. Mowing lawns. Yeah. I tried that. I can never get anybody to commit to letting me use sharp objects.
Yeah, I discovered later on I had terrible allergies. So not a good combination does that make either. Sharp objects and allergies. That's not a business model I could stay in with for the rest of my life. So did you go to college? Did you go to learn business and marketing and internet, or where'd you go?
Yeah, I mean, I barely graduated high school, if I'm being honest. I had undiagnosed ADHD, and I was really more interested in kind of the fun sides of high school and not so much the paying attention sides. But I did go to college for 4 years. I accidentally dropped out. Yeah. So how do you accidentally drop out of college? Right?
I dropped out on purpose. How did you exit? That's like, I accidentally fell into her and we got pregnant.
Yeah. No, that's never worked for me, but, yeah. So I was registered. I was in computer information systems programs, like computer related stuff, which is what I thought I was interested in. I did a bit of marketing, and then I was really interested in like kinesiology and fitness and bodybuilding and stuff like that in my early 20s. So I was trying to transfer to another school, and I was registered for my courses and everything like that. And there's a due date to pay for your classes. And it wasn't that I didn't have the money to pay for it. It's just that I forgot. So I was deregistered from everything. And at first I thought, hey, I'll take a semester off. And what wound up happening was I got a job in the business intelligence sector. It used to be Crystal Decisions, then Business Objects, then SAP. And, it required a degree. I didn't have a degree. Yeah. So I figured, well, I've got this now. What's the point of going back? And, that's kind of how I left school.
It's a very similar story. I resonate that with a lot. I purposefully failed out of college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And they wanted to teach me Fortran and COBOL and like green screen programming. And then was like, well, if that's the most advanced thing, what else do you got? And it's like, well, let's do C++. And I'm like, oh, shoot me now.
Yeah.
Like that was horrible. I was going to sit around and do green line programming for servers for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. And the computer side of school is nothing like Van Wilder, where he doesn't want to ever leave college because he's just having beer bongs and endless sexual partners.
Yeah. I don't know about that side of my college experience, Ryan, but maybe you had as
No, mine did not look like Van Wilder's either. Mine was.
Yours didn't look like, no, mine didn't look like Van Wilder. No. How'd you fall into Tru Earth? Did you just decide one day, hey, I want to go try and build some, a product based in a mission to save the earth? Or how did you get into that?
No. So I was kind of tied to media prior to this, and mostly on kind of like the crossroads between content creation and selling things. So like I used to own a couple different magazines. I was vice president of a company that had a number of print publications, and we would come in and we would take these assets that, most print magazines are struggling, and we would figure out a way to monetize them with commerce. So for us, it was a lot of subscription boxes. And one of the big ones that we put together was this outdoor adventure box. It was called the Live the Adventure subscription box. And the idea was, it was more tied to what you get out of it versus the actual stuff. So the goal behind it was, there's a lot of people that want to get out, experience the outdoors, and really change their life. Like everybody wants the outcome of whatever it is that they want to do, not the actual stuff, right? And what we found was that like the idea behind sending somebody a box of stuff would get them in the door into the business. But we had like this community where there was like adventure challenges and all these things that actually got them doing the thing that they wanted to do. So the idea behind it was like the fact that we were changing people's lives and this e-commerce product was a conduit to get them in there and actually making these changes
Yeah.
was pretty inspiring. It was like, wow, well, if we can do this, and even after people are done getting stuff, they're staying on because it's valuable for their life. What other challenges could we take on that where we could actually have impact?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had a bunch of other subscription boxes that I helped out that did fairly well as well. But you get to this point in your life where you're like juggling all these like really complex balls. And like, that's the one thing with being an entrepreneur is like, there's all these shiny things and you eventually get overwhelmed. And it's like, why am I doing all this stuff for money? Like, it's like, you only have so much time and it's tough if you don't have a reason why you're doing the thing you're doing. If you don't, for me, it's like, it's really hard. It's really easy to give up on more money. It's really hard to give up on things that will impact the future of my children's life on this planet. So switching the lens of how I go about get into business from how do I make more money for me into how do I make more impact for people that I care about really reframed the way that I looked at things and allows me to hold a little bit more anxiety or, stress because what I'm trying to accomplish isn't just about like, getting a Lamborghini or a boat or, a bigger car.
Yeah. You don't want to be a twerker on Instagram. Is that what you're telling me?
I tried it, there wasn't a demand.
There wasn't a demand?
There wasn't a demand for my twerking, unfortunately, maybe 20 years ago.
Maybe 20 years ago. Yeah, I totally resonate with what you're saying. It's people, passion and purpose bring profit, right? And if you understand that and invert that relationship, it's experience and life and challenges, both high and low, that get you into the place that you just described. It's not where you start out. As somebody who's teaching a group of young kids right now, the Intro to Entrepreneurship course, that's one of the things I'm trying to instill in them as they learn what it means to be an entrepreneur and then what it means to actually become a business owner. Two very separate things. So when people refer to me as an entrepreneur, I'm like, no, I was at that stage 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I got past that. Like I'm in the business building stage. Why? Because now I'm focused on things because last year for me, it wasn't cryptocurrency and this year it's AI. It's like every year some crap changes. If it has some application that might apply to the business, the model and what I'm doing that backs up, my mantra of fund people and profit, then yeah, I'm into it. You might hear me talking about it, but how I'm applying it to my business, not necessarily how I'm just trying to sell you something else in the market. And I appreciate that you resonate with that. So I like to ask people what their worst, well, let's start with this. What was the best advice you've ever gotten in business first? And then I'll ask you what the worst is just to get your brain around it.
The first thing that popped into my head for the best advice was from a gentleman named Matt Bertulli, who I'm friends with from Lomi and Pillowcase. And it was actually when we were starting Tru Earth because we were considering, it would be fantastic for this thing to be like a side of the desk business that did like $1 million a year or something like that. And I know that's not side of the desk for some people, but like that was, okay, we'll push this. We'll do like $1 million a year. And literally it was just 2 words. This is all he said to me was think bigger. And it sounds, well, duh, Ryan, no shit, like think bigger. But like, it's very easy to get caught up in like whatever your glass ceiling is, like we wound up doing 10 times that revenue almost in the first year. And I see this in a lot of people. It's just like these self-limiting beliefs that you think that you're only worth this much, or like your time's only worth this much. You can only charge this much. Your product can only be sold for this much. You're only capable of doing this much revenue. There's all these like self-limiting beliefs, and like just like the idea of somebody telling me, especially somebody that had done, millions and millions of dollars in revenue, like myself, was that like that I was putting a cap on the success of where I think I could go it was a big shift in the way that I think. And it sounds stupid, it sounds simple, but it
just spoke with you in that moment and it resonated with where you were. We may have heard it before in the past and someone else may have told us it just didn't click. I know exactly how that works. When the right time and mindset are moving from conscious to subconscious state and you're actually willing to receive it, you'll hear it and all of a sudden, boop, like everything starts to change. You may have heard it 100 times before. It just wasn't the right time, the moment, and you just weren't accepting of that. And it can be such a major shift in your mindset from scarcity to abundance. It's just the little scarcities we don't recognize that can be ingrained from familia or patterns of behavior or family or lifestyle or just friends we keep around us because we think we like them, but in some ways they're really scarce in the way they think about stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to let go of that relationship. So every time you talk to them, you come away thinking, oh, there's a limiting belief factor that gets tied to the back of that.
Yeah.
Which is really difficult. Does it make sense?
Totally, man. Like I think like a lot of people ask their friends and their family about what they think about a business, and I think that's like the absolute worst thing that you can do. Not because they don't, not because that they don't want you to succeed, but they have their own self-limiting beliefs, and they generally don't want you to go and do something that takes you away from them. It's not like
it's ultimately a fear of removal. Absolutely, you nailed it. Yeah,
and I think you can have your cake and eat it too. Like you can still be
sure.
You can still be friends with the people that you've grown up with. It's just you just don't take necessarily business advice from them.
Well, so much has changed in that 40 plus years you and I have been on this planet, and that's that we've gone through this major shift of commerce and transaction that has become a flat world communication that you and I live in daily. But for our parents and generation just behind us, it's not something they're as accustomed to. So the kinds of things that sometimes I discuss with my family is just outside of their scope. Like they don't get it. My dad was a blue collar, hardworking guy. God bless him. 80 years old. He retired when he was 63, and he's just been kind of hanging out and being a guy now, which is fun to watch. But he was that hard working, sometimes third shift guy who, as we talked about a second ago, I had a job. Mine was, mowing the lawns, which sucked, but that's how I made any other money. That I wanted to do anything with, that I wanted. I had everything I needed really at the end of the day, but if I wanted anything, I had to go get it. So I was kind of ingrained in me that I needed to get outside and I needed to do this. But what we do now, technically, what I just do in the last 10 years, it wasn't even possible 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And such a shift in having to keep up on that stuff. Really, you discover even in yourself still some of those limiting mindset and beliefs and little hidden scarcities down inside of that conscious, subconscious area in our brain. Maybe we pack it away, or we stick it in a box and we hide it over here because it's not popular and we expect to be rejected if we bring it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what's the worst advice?
What is the worst advice that I've ever been given? What's funny is I don't think I like actively record like the bad advice from people. Like I don't sit around and think like, oh, that was shitty advice and I never should have listened to that.
You didn't wreck a car one time, go on a bender that ended up in a DUI, or, you didn't have any like really bad advice you thought you didn't.
I mean, I'm probably not going to spill the beans on all those.
Now that's what we're kidding, man. Let's lay the couch back. We're going Jordan Peterson for a moment.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm just trying to think back to when I was younger. And I think like some of the stuff was like I was offered a number of like apprenticeships when I was kind of in that, like, didn't know what I was going to do with my life phase. Like there were times where I was like told to go and get like, go get a real job. And I spent a lot of time. Like it's easy to look back now and be like, oh, everything worked out the way it did. And it's good. But like for like 15 years, I had my business and I would work a job, whether it was like bartending or selling cell phones, or like I was longshoring, and that pays pretty well. Like, it's 6-figure income. And there were times when I was there where I was thinking like, man, I should just do this. Like it's easy. There's no stress. I don't have to worry about things. And people see you grinding for so long and they're like, you should just, settle into something and be okay. Like with a job. And that's probably like the hinting at giving up on the things that I wanted to accomplish was probably like, people didn't say like, hey, stop doing what you're doing, Ryan. But like, there's like passive ways that people would say it. Like, you only have so much time on this planet. You only, there's more to life than money. And I 100% agree that hustle culture is bullshit. And you can do it for a certain period of time. But once you get to like, I wouldn't give up missing out on my kids' early years and to be a hustler. Yeah. But, you have to be careful, again, who the source of information is, because if somebody's not doing the thing that you want to do and they're telling you to stop doing it, they're probably not the best person to take advice.
Probably not the best advice.
Yeah. No. And, even if it is meant to be like, hey, you only have so much time on this planet, take care of yourself, do things for yourself. It's just, you might be this close to breaking through that wall and quitting. And I don't know. I'm not saying work 80 hours a week for nothing, but be
Just be
aware.
careful what advice you listen to and who's the source, because I've heard it said before, the people that are below you will criticize you, the people above you will not.
Yeah.
And, because we're talking about ideas and stuff, and it's passing on to, you mentioned your children, of course, mine and yours, we're growing them very differently than a lot of people. We're trying to lead them into a different way of thinking. We're trying to lead them into a different way of experience and abundance and mindset, not just, scarcity in the way they can be or who they can be or what's possible in the world, right?
Yeah.
Which sort of leads me to my next question. You have three, if I'm not mistaken. And so the question would be, if the plane is going down and you can only choose two, who is getting left behind? No, do not answer that question. I'm just joking.
Oh, that's ruthless.
Oh, we're gonna find out who you really are in that moment. I don't want to expose you that way. No, but in all seriousness, though, you are a family guy. How is life and balancing that with marriage and children? How's that working for you?
Well, I just got back from Mexico last night. That's what my voice sounds like. I work at a 1-900 number.
Yeah, be 1-900 today, dude. Try and keep up, man. It's not good enough.
Yeah, I think, I've tweeted about this quite a bit lately, is like, there's Parkinson's law is that work expands to the time that you give it to occupy that space. So that's not verbatim, but like basically the amount of work that you have will fill whatever time you give it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that work 12, 16 hours a day because they're compensating for something else, whether they're unhappy or whatever that is. And I used to work a ridiculous amount too. And, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was masking something, but for me now I work, 8, 9 until about 5 o'clock. And then I shut her down and I go and I do my kids' activities with them, whether it's like hockey or soccer or swimming or whatever that is. And sometimes I pick it back up at like 10 o'clock if there's a deadline, but it's the biggest
You ever
thing.
feel it's difficult to give yourself permission to do things at different times?
Oh, things for myself personally. Yeah. Like I don't,
You too, your children, yourself personally, just to like that permission that says, well, I can get up, I can do this, I can block out that time.
I still struggle with this right now, man, is that I won't do anything for myself outside of the regular work hours. Like I want to learn how to play the guitar. I want to learn forever. I play it. I suck. But if I can't get a time slot to go and work with somebody to teach me during like the 9 to 5, like to me, in my head, I've programmed myself to think that those are my hours and everything else is not mine. And that's something I need to work on. Like to me, it's like I give that to my family, and maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, maybe I don't know. But
it's so hard to do that, though. Literally, I have to do the same thing, and I still struggle with this. I run my own schedule. I don't have to be beholden to any particular call or situation that's not outside of like a 1 time a week schedule we have for our coaching mastermind. I can change it. Why don't I? Why do sometimes I not feel like I can't? And sometimes I just remember I have to give myself permission. Like yesterday, it was like I took the day. Went with the whole school co-op. We spent the day in Branson at this place called Wonderworks, which was so cool. And my phone was 99% in my pocket outside of one call I had to take on the way in. And I just spent the whole day playing with the kids till we wore each other out and came home. And it's not just one day that you can do that. It's when I could schedule it in, when I just say, okay, it's 3 in the afternoon, I don't have any calls. Well, I could sit down and maybe write some scripts and play some YouTube videos or try to get something else. Or I could just go, boop, I'm out of here and go in the other room or go somewhere else or meet my kids or just go play a game or do something. It's such a struggle, isn't it? To just give yourself permission to do that.
it's the weirdest thing. I have a gym like 2 rooms over from where I am right now, and like it doesn't get used, even though I tell myself every day, like we're going to get up and we're going to do this. And then I think it's just like deprioritizing yourself for everything else. And I think it's just like, how do you, like when I was just in Mexico just now, I was like actively thinking about like, do I have to make KPIs for my own fucking life? Oops, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but do I need to make OKRs? Do I need to make OKRs? Like, and I like started doing it earlier this year a little bit, but it was like for things that I wanted to do that were still like business related. So I wanted to tweet 3 times a day. And like, I just like, that's one of my OKRs. I'm like, I think I just need to do that for my life. Like I want to play guitar. Do I need to apply business rules to my life so that I do it?
Maybe you do.
I want the output from the work. I don't really care about the work. So if that's what I need to do to be able to do the thing, like to enjoy the output, then I guess that's I don't, maybe
Or
you
try a
have
different
to.
instrument. Mine was the ukulele because I have a guitar and
Yeah.
it's setting over here, as you can see. And yet it's still setting there, as you can see. What you can't see is the dust on the hood because it hasn't been opened. But what you will find is a ukulele in the other room for whatever reason. I just found that to be a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
And it's only 4 strings. So I went and started to learn how to play that. So I can start getting hand chords and stuff down. So I can actually decently peck out, songs on the ukulele. I still can't play the guitar.
Can you play that like Somewhere Over the Rainbow song now? Like,
I did. I actually recorded myself on YouTube, embarrassingly enough, to challenge myself. This is why I did it. Was really for
yeah.
nobody else. Is I recorded myself kind of playing and singing a song, and I stuck it
Oh,
on Facebook to just embarrass the crap out of myself, to just challenge myself, literally to go do more of it. And yes, I can play Somewhere Over the Rainbow really badly.
that's awesome.
And you wouldn't want to hear me sing it. My wife could sing it, but yeah.
You're making me want to go buy a ukulele just to, I could play ukulele in like grade 3.
It was like it was just a crutch instrument, and the kids
Yeah.
were playing with it, and I'm like, well, it's got strings on it, and it's sort of like a guitar. It's like a mini version, and maybe I can try to use the 4-string. I played trumpet as a musician for a good part of my beginning life until I was like 24, and went to music and scholarship. So I'm musically inclined. However, it was in my mouth and my right hand. It was trumpet. So to get the left hand moving, it's like this thing just kind of wants to do its own thing, and it's like trying to control it is like just impossible. I feel like that movie. Where's the movie with the dead hand that like wants to
Idle Hands.
Idle
like,
Hands?
Jessica
Yeah.
Alba and Devon Sawa.
Idle hands. Yes, I have an idle left hand, and it does not want to play piano, and it certainly doesn't like the guitar. It's just bridges. Like I thought of it as a bridge. Like, the ukulele is not a guitar. It's not as cool. It's not as sexy. You can't sit down and serenade, your family around a campfire and be that guy. It's a guitar.
But you could show up to a couple buddies who are playing the drums and somebody else is jamming, and you could do like some like,
Always a
some
Hawaiian
rhythm.
theme.
Yeah, always Hawaiian theme. Like
Yeah, I don't know. It's just steps. I just thought of it as a step. I thought if I could at least get that far, maybe at some point I can actually pick up the guitar. Baby steps.
nice.
Yeah. Maybe you need a transition ukulele.
Maybe. I actually thought about buying a bass guitar.
What would the transition name for that be? He, his, bass, him?
Drop the bass.
Drop the bass. Baby got bass. Yeah. Yeah, well, that sounds like a fun group of instruments to play. Maybe that's your agenda for 2023. Maybe that's what you do this year.
Maybe it is. I mean, I don't know. I'll report back and we can do a jam session.
Let's do a follow-up
I'll do the
session.
bass for Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It'll be like
Yeah.
a remix.
It'll be the only bass ukulele band on the internet. It'll
Yeah.
be like the worst ever Jack Black band.
Best song in the world.
Yeah. The best, worst song nobody wants to hear, but that's all. Who cares? What is on the agenda for you this year? What's your real priorities?
Yeah, I mean, continuing to grow Tru Earth. We're trying to get it into, being a household brand and getting as many retail stores as possible, as well as online. That's kind of the, we're kind of all in on this. We did a funding round last year. So
Okay.
I think we're in 7,000 stores right now, and we're in a couple test spots in some big spaces in the US right now. If we get those, that's just like 10,000 more doors immediately. I know it's kind of not the traditional way of like e-commerce brands, but it's, I think there's a common thread amongst digitally native brands where they can scale with their Facebook ads or their Google ads, but they eventually hit that CPA threshold where it's just not affordable for them anymore.
Yes.
And then now what? So, being able
Multi-channel strategy.
totally multi-channel, omni-channel, whatever you want to call it. I think it's long-term is wise, but it's a very different nut than, what you and I are used to.
Yeah. We go channel, DTC, Amazon, and then retail. You hardly see retail ever being the first option, only because the barrier of entry can be very difficult, especially when you're testing and you got to put millions into getting it off the ground.
Yeah.
I can scale Amazon as an incubation channel first, or DTC, and discover what the audience conversation is, the brand, the ability, the pricing, the market share, and then move retail.
Exactly.
In fact, we've had retail find us.
That's exactly what happened with us, actually. Retail.
Is that how they did it? Because he just got picked up by a buyer the other day. He was like, "Hey, I used your product. My wife loved it." And he's like, "We found out who you were, and now we want to help you with your retail and put you into Macy's." It's like, "Okay, let's do it." Yeah, but it's just getting out there in different mechanisms, right?
Totally.
So, look, man, it's been fun. Let's wrap it up here for a second. And let me just ask the last question. Any advice to anybody who's listening that you'd like to share at the last time here? Anything you want to tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that stops people from creating their own brand or their own product is that they have this belief that they need, they need to buy all this inventory. They need to come up with a business plan and do all these things before they can ever get started. And I think we're at this beautiful place in time where you don't need to do all of the work that you used to need to do in order to determine whether a business can be successful. You can simply, in an afternoon, you can create a sales page with like a checkout form, and you can run some ads to it to see whether or not the product and your messaging actually fit. And so if you have an idea, don't wait 2 years to try it out. Just test it out in an afternoon. And if nobody buys it after $500,000 worth of ad spend, then maybe your messaging is wrong, maybe the product's wrong, but you don't have to spend, there's never been a better time to come up with a new business idea than right here, right now, because
the flat of the internet, the millions of people who can reach it, it's so much easier than it used to be with a lemonade stand or a local business, right? Yeah. Ryan, thanks for coming on, man. Guys, check it out at tru.earth, TRU.earth. Check out his products, check out his message. Thanks for taking a listen. Like, subscribe, do all that great stuff. Look at his social media. Give him some nice reviews. Lift him up. He needs it. I've been here today. His ego needs it. No, I'm just kidding. But go check out what he's doing. Ryan, thanks for coming on, brother.
Cheers. Thanks, man.